Alrighty, it is 7 o'clock. I'll gavel us back in. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Alrighty. 302, approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to?
I'd like to make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Do I have a second?
With the modification.
I'll second.
And that modification is to remove item 506 from the consent agenda. So we have a motion by Charlotte, a second by Monica. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion moves. 401, approval modification of minutes from our last meeting on January 3rd. Do I have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the January 3rd governing board meeting.
I'll second.
Motion by Charlotte, second by Monica. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's passed. All righty. The consent agenda. Now, I'll again reiterate 506 has been pulled, so everything else is still available. Do I have a motion to approve the modified consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda, items 5.01 through 5.05 and 5.07 through 5.09.
Second.
Motion by Monica, seconded by Charlotte. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Consent agenda has passed. I do just want to take a quick moment to thank Cigna for their $3,000 donation and for the Arizona Mills Mall for the donation of shoes and clothing. On to 601, Celebrate Excellence. Dr. Driscoll.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board. Tonight I have a few items in Celebrate Excellence. 33 Mosley Middle School students are now published authors. This journey to authorship started for these 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students in Melissa Roman Clarino's English Language Development class. After studying plot elements, students began the process of developing their own stories related to this year's theme, Scary Stories. As students considered the conflict and resolution of their stories, they collaborated with each other to bring their stories to life. The students finalized their stories with handwritten and self-illustrated copies ready to be published. The finished product was a bounded book for each student as a keepsake. Students celebrated their completed anthology with a book signing party where each student took turns reading their thoughtfully crafted stories aloud. On Friday, January 12th, we celebrated the 100th day of school. Across our school, classes celebrated this milestone in fun ways. Congratulations to our teachers and students for 100 great days of learning. Thank you to all of our families who joined us for our elementary open house events last week. Our school staff had so much fun meeting students and family. This event kicked off our enrollment for the 24-25 school year. Families can now enroll online or visit any TD3 school for in-person enrollment. Again, as always, we'd like to thank our community partners. We'd like to take this opportunity to thank them, Cigna and Arizona Mills Mall, for $4,000 in donations for our students and staff. And that concludes my Celebrate Excellence for this week.
Alrighty, on to 701, a presentation from the City of Tempe Sustainability and Resilience Office.
All right. Oh, look, and the slides are up. You folks are a well-oiled machine. All right. I'm just going to move the microphone, get everything a little closer. I also brought notes so I don't forget any cool things to tell you. Okay. Hi. Hi, governing board members. My name is Evelyn, and I am the Youth Climate Action Coordinator for the City of Tempe. With me behind me, I have Brianne Fisher. She is the Climate Action Manager, and we are both housed within the Sustainability and Resilience Office. So just to give you some overview of why I'm here, in our city's history, the City of Tempe has a climate action plan, and in the most recent update to that plan, the city included youth voices. I think that's super critical. That is something that's not typically done. And in our listening sessions with youth, they directed us to invest deeper in their schools. And we, as a human-centered office, really want those investments that we make into schools in TD3 and Tempe Union to reflect holistic change. And so that means not only investing in physical infrastructure like you'll see today, but also supporting the staff, teachers, students, and to enhance the sort of learning environment and to cultivate a sense of place. And I know everyone on the board understands how critical a sense of place is when it comes to these learning institutions like our schools and our communities, right? So today, what I'd like to do is go over some specifics to some recent greening projects that we've done at several schools. And of course, I've thrown in pictures for you because they sometimes tell the story most vividly, right? And one common thread that you'll see, especially with this slide, is partnership. We often work with nonprofits and community-based organizations to make our impacts greater. And in an even larger context, our office includes those partnerships as we go after federal dollars. And while we're doing this, we have also seen a higher interest from the private sector in wanting to invest in this work as well. And even to speak to Dr. Driscoll's investment, some private sector dollars coming through, right? And so some of the folks who've been involved in our recent greenings are on the screen here. And we, of course, would love your continued partnership, board and TD3, to help make this money go far for schools. All right, now I'll always have to have the numbers slide, right? So the work done on this slide was done either last spring on April 1st or this past fall in October and November. There is some color coding as we did a variety of projects over the 5 schools listed at the bottom. Shout out to board member Allison Ewers. She came to and spoke at the April 1st event where we planted those 54 trees at Connolly. And then I do want to say, though, that numbers are only part of this story. As these trees grow and mature, their shade and cooling impact will also grow. That's where our sustainability and resilience hearts really kick in, right? The shrubs will soften edges and make a space more inviting, and garden plants are a value add to school campuses and the larger community. I'm super proud of the work that these numbers represent because, again, our goal includes holistic community greening. So yes, trees and vegetation, but also making sure that there's tree care, that the irrigation can handle things, and that there is involvement in the school community. And I am happy to give you more details on these numbers at the end of my presentation if you want. So what we've accomplished so far, and that so far is critical. Building on what I said about Tempe's youth agenda and these great numbers, I want to give you some great visuals from these specific projects. And so these images are from a suite of activities among 4 schools in October and November of the fall school year. This is a pre-planting picture, so no one is dirty or sweaty yet, right? And again, we've got representation from the community, the private sector, ASU, a nonprofit. We've got Tempe staff, mayor and council there, as well as school staff. So a really holistic touch. And you know that I have to include the action shot. So this is at Shamley, where we planted 13 trees to bring shade and cooling all around the recess field. And we also renovated their garden, and I will get to that in just a moment. I want to also highlight the refreshed courtyard at Thew Elementary. We renovated the front courtyard by replacing some dead trees and adding in desert-adapted shrubs, and also adjusting the irrigation to accommodate those new plants. So this was in preparation for a ribbon cutting for an outdoor learning space sponsored by United Healthcare, because again, we're seeing that uptick in interest and funding for shade and cooling from the private sector. If you're familiar with the entryway of Thew, you may remember it was fairly empty. And we are just really excited to look forward to having those shrubs and trees really grow and soften that space, especially when it's the first thing that you see when you go to Thew. All right, so this is something that I'm particularly proud of, and it is the garden at Shamley. The situation on this slide is a super common one across Tempe and actually across the valley, where there is garden infrastructure at a school, maybe some beds, some tools, a bench, but it's being underused or it is completely fallen by the wayside. After receiving buy-in from Shamley staffers, which again is critical, we undertook the task of renovating all 9 garden beds there. So that means removing that soil and removing Bermuda grass. If you're familiar with Bermuda grass, you don't fight it, you just remove it. So that's what we did. And then we replaced that soil, we removed the Bermuda grass, we replaced that soil with clean, healthy garden mix soil. And then when we had volunteers, we had a great volunteer day, care of State Farm. They used shovels, rakes, a lot of muscles, to fill all of those 9 garden beds with that fresh garden soil. And then our group planted 3 of those beds. Why not all 9? If you are a gardener, you may realize going from no beds to all of the beds can be really daunting. And again, we want this to be manageable for the 2 staffers that took on this garden. And so the idea would be to add more plants as capacity and interest grows. The ultimate goal for these investments, again, is that holistic touch: curriculum, programming, and support. So our teachers asked for 3 beds, and we delivered those 3 beds beautifully. And I would be remiss if I didn't give special recognition to Michelle Grimaldi as Director of Wraparound Services. She is an immense help in getting these projects to completed successfully. And I personally was super impressed by Jim Lemon. I know that I spent most of my time in the garden at Chamblee. Jim, did you actually get to plant a tree, or were you in the garden the whole time? Yeah. So
I think that was Photoshop. I don't think it was.
There's so many pictures of him. Like, we were so dirty and so happy by the end of this. And again, let me show you the after picture. We are sweaty and we are tired, but those smiles and that garden bed, and there's a little pomegranate tree to the right of everybody. This is why we do this, right? To set this up for success. So to conclude, we do look forward, obviously, to continuing this work and this partnership. On the screen, you'll see some of the general interventions that we're planning. We're going to continue to invest and support in, again, not only the physical infrastructure, but also the staff, teachers, curriculum for students at TD3. We're so grateful for this partnership, but it's also vital to integrate the cooling and resilience in our communities into our schools. Again, we know that schools are a trusted, rock-solid institution in our community, and we want to make sure that they are resilient. I have 2 things that did not actually happen so recently, they did not make the slides. One is, again, I would be remiss if I didn't plug the recently passed International Green Construction Codes. That is a building code like LEED certification, and currently in the city of Tempe, it is voluntary for developers. The city has stepped up and said that they are going to use green codes for all new city buildings. And I just kind of want to put a bug in your ear, governing board members, that I hope one day TD3 also commits to using green codes for all of the schools being planned or rebuilt in the future. And breaking news, literally today, we received word that our office received a grant that will include staff to assist tree management in our school system. So again, that holistic funding of making sure that not only are we planting trees, that we got the irrigation, but also is there going to be money for staff to make sure that those trees stay healthy and continue to cool our schools and our community. So I'll take questions and comments.
Allison.
Ellen, thank you so much. Everyone who comes out to these events is so enthusiastic, and you really do from your heart believe in this, and yeah, it shows through. State Farm, I'd like to thank, oh my gosh, and UPS, they send out so many people to help with this.
Yeah, they really do.
And I want the community to understand that you're not just planting some trees. Right. Mr. Pugh said, come here, I got to show you some more. And you guys noticed things on all of these campuses that could use a little improvement, and you had the resources to do it, and you understood that we don't have as much staff as we want doing that. So you trim trees. Yeah. You pull weeds. You added grass to areas that wasn't even on the
courtyard.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't even on the map. And you're out there, and I see you out there putting grass in and helping with that. So you guys are going above and beyond, but the community is recognizing it. And even with water, all the major trees, the most we put in with Connolly, like we were extremely concerned because the irrigation doesn't quite come up to them.
Right.
So you guys have been bringing out water to make sure, and you're also making sure that they're watered correctly, which I'm grateful for, because I do get a report on my 7 trees that I contributed to. I get a report on if any of them are looking a little bad.
Got it.
There's a neighbor that's right there on the street. He'll say, Allison, your tree number 3 has a problem, and then I go and I talk to it, and it's kind of like, it's the Lorax thing, right? Like, unless we do something, nothing's going to change. So, and so it's just been awesome, and the community's recognizing it, and I tell them that it's you guys that are doing it, and we're we're grateful in all of these neighborhoods. And the only request that I have is that the community, and especially the neighborhood, like to participate more.
Yeah,
So if
yeah,
you could
more
give us a
community
little
outreach.
bit better notice, I think that we'd probably get dozens of people out there, because the buzz was happening as we were doing it. And then I started getting texts and calls, and they were like, "What are you doing out there?"
Right. Yeah.
So I think they really want to participate. So I have contacts that can filter that out. So just let
Perfect.
us know.
Yeah.
And yeah, you guys are going above and beyond, but it's just making Tempe greater and better. And I'm appreciative.
Yeah, and much love to our urban forester who is also handling that water. And you bring up a great point. We are a new office, and so we're still building those relationships in those neighborhoods. So thank you for the offer. Yeah, we definitely want and I've said this to partners before, my feeling is that the school in the neighborhood shouldn't go home on Friday with the school looking one way and then come back to the school or come back around on Monday and have it look completely different. I want the neighborhood to know what's going on so they can come out and cheer and help and take pictures or whatever.
Yeah, and absolutely,
sure.
they'd be great. So yeah, I'm getting ready to make a little plaque that says, "Unless you care a whole awful lot,
Love it.
nothing's going to get better." So thank you. Thank you for caring so much.
Of course, yeah. Any other comments, questions?
I just want to second her points, and thank you so much for all this.
Appreciate. Awesome. Okay.
Oh,
Thank you.
actually, before you go, Mom,
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to say thank
Yeah.
you so much for everything you do. It's beautifying our schools and our communities, but also helping provide shade, which, as you mentioned, helps with our climate. So thank you so much. I know the city of Tempe also does some cool things like tree baits and
Yes,
other opportunities.
yes.
So whatever we can do to share with our families as well to
Yes.
continue that in our neighborhoods.
Yeah, and again, that's back to our urban forestry department. As our office sort of matures, we're really trying to deepen not only our partnerships with the community, but our departmental relationships. Water conservation's doing cool stuff, urban forestry's doing cool stuff. And so, yeah, we're really trying to get better at making sure that when we go out into the community, we can say, oh, well, we're planting trees in the school, but there is this program, and yeah, so for sure, it's on our radar. Awesome. Thank you so much.
moving on to 702, introduction of the 2023-2024 interest-based negotiations team. Mr. McGee.
Thank you, Mr. President. Okay. Did you hear the first part? Okay. It's that time of the year we're about to embark on interest-based negotiations, and so the presentation is about introducing the team. But before we do that, we want to kind of give a little history of Tempe Elementary School District and interest-based negotiations. So we've been probably over 20 years been participating in interest-based negotiations. It's represented by TD3 administration and the TEA, Tempe Elementary Education Association. They are the recognized voice for our members and staff members throughout the district. And so the two sides do come together. The process starts, we want to make sure in this process that every staff member has a voice. That voice is through the annual IBN survey. That survey goes out the week prior to winter break and is open through the entirety of winter break and then also a week following. And so every opportunity is given to staff to voice their interest in this survey. The survey is related around working conditions, salaries, benefits. Some of these conversations that we employ during this process leads to recommendations around policy and regulation that gets referred to Dr. Driscoll and ultimately to the governing board. So we've successfully embarked on this journey for, like I said, over 20 years. We're very proud of the work we've been able to groundbreaking years where we've been able to do some really wonderful things, and we've still had those difficult conversations in years where it's very tough. So we don't know what we're about to embark in, so we do have some returning members to the team, and we have some new faces that can provide those excellent voices. So I'll go ahead and introduce our members of the TD3 administration, and then I'm going to ask Darren Gonzalez to come up and share the association. So of course, we have our amazing CFO, Mr. Eric Thompson. We also have Matt Strauss, who is our principal of Aguilar, couldn't be here this evening, but we also have Miss Bernice Sharp, who's she's a returning member, longtime principal. We talked about her years of service today when I was at Nevitt, but I won't share it here. So she's an awesome voice on the team, and so we're lucky to have her back. So that's our TD3 administrative team on side, and then Darren coming up, and you can introduce the association members.
Mr. President, members of the board, Superintendent Driscoll. So Darren Gonzalez, I'm TEA President, also a proud member of the IBN process team. And I'm here to introduce the rest of our partnership on the team today. So just to my right over here, we have Allison Holden. She's a teacher at the Fuller Elementary campus. She's been teaching for many years with Tempe Elementary, both at Fuller, at Bustos too, I believe. And she's thankfully returned back as an elementary voice perspective in this year's negotiations. Then over on my left, we have Kelly Trujillo. She's 16 years as a kindergarten teacher in Tempe Elementary, and now she's been as SAS at the Aguilar campus and is returning back to IBN. She's been on it for a number of years and returned back as our voice on the certified non-classroom perspective. And then next to her on her left, for the first time on IBN, we have Taylor Webb. She's a 7th grade ELA teacher over at the Mosley campus. And then just behind her, we have Christina Palmerin, also her first year joining our IBN team. She's the office manager at Connolly, and as we know, the office managers are the entire reason a school can run. So we're very happy to have her perspective and voice in the process for that. And then obviously, you know me, this is my 9th year in IBN, so happy to continue and be a part of our effective and very efficient process.
Thanks, Darren. And so I know he's very humble, but I'll speak on his behalf. Darren does an awesome job of bringing and integrating technology into the process. One of the things that I can share that we're proud of as a team is that we go through, and I have to remind people that the survey is confidential. We have no clue unless they say, hi, this is so-and-so. It's a confidential survey. But we go through, and Darren does an awesome job of creating trends and hot topics based on the information that's come to the survey so that we can filter through to help to expedite the process. So. Yeah, I can't understate that again, so thank you, Darren. So at any rate, that's our team for IBN. We're going to convene. Our first meeting will be Monday afternoon in the superintendent conference room. So if you guys have any comments or guidance for this year's negotiations, we'd be happy to hear. Thank you. Charlotte.
Thank you, Mr. McGinney, for your presentation, and Darren for introducing the rest of the team. I'm a huge fan of IBN. I've been a part of a different system, and I remember when I first came in, I was like, what is this? And super impressed with how everybody works together to get a huge consensus on what the team's decision is. And I think is one of the many things that makes Tempe Elementary great. So thank you for always investing and volunteering the extra time to continue that process. Thank you.
Alrighty, moving on to 801, call to the public. I believe we have no blue cards, so moving on past that. 901, discussion, consideration, possible approval of the solutions architect position and corresponding job description. Any discussion and or? Oh, Dr. Driscoll, I'm sorry, yes.
I'll turn this over to Cindy to explain this one to you guys.
Certainly. Thank you, Dr. Driscoll. President Miller, as our team evolves, we are continuing to want to stay on the forefront of technology and to better serve our customers, our teachers, staff, and students. So the creation of the solutions architect is really to, as problems come to us that need a creative solution and need a forward-thinking solution, we really wanted somebody that can take the lead on that, assemble the right team members, help us through the problem solving so that we can initiate change for the greater good. So that is the evolution of this position.
I will also say that this is not a new FTE. It is a replacement of an existing FTE, which is our field technician. So they're basically saying we want to use this instead of the vacant field technician position that another member moved to another position on their team. So.
Monica.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this is a position that we're openly going to hire for, or we're kind of relocating the position?
So go ahead. You want to? Yeah, we're going to openly hire for, but we're replacing a field tech position. So we're basically, it's a swap of a FTE. So instead of having 4 field techs, we'll have 3 field techs with a solution architect.
Thank you. Is that a common title, solution architect for technology? Because when I first read that, I was like, oh, we're hiring an architect.
That's why I passed it over to Cindy to explain it to you.
actually, Bill Strube, who's recently retired, he retired a couple weeks ago. This was a term that he started coining in the basement as we'd solve problems. And instead of just bringing the problem with no solution, he started to coin that phrase, we've got to come forward and be solution architects. And so it just is a phrase that kind of stuck. And when we talked about the needs of the department and the needs of supporting schools, we figured let's continue that idea of being a solutions architect and how do you solve problems and bring forward solutions. So I'm not going to say Bill dreamed it up. We're just working from Bill on that one.
Yeah, I love it. I love the title. I was wondering with recruitment, when people see that, I don't know if it's going to deter some folks who are in IT maybe.
Dave might like that. We get some architects.
Right. That's why we made sure that it does have IT. So when the posting goes out, we will make sure that it says IT so that Dave isn't inundated with architects that think they're going to be working in facilities. And then hopefully the job description itself will describe to candidates what it's all about.
Allison.
Thank you, Mr. President. When I read it, I got a little excited over one thing, but you might have to take my excitement away. One of the elephants in the room that we are not necessarily approaching right now, but are going to have to, like it or not, is AI. Would this position be part of the solutions to possible AI predicaments as we go through? Because I'm feeling like we need to get on that part. So is that for this guy? That's what I was excited about.
Possibly. I think when we talk about things like that, that's really bridging all of the different folks in the different enterprises. So when we talk about AI, it's involving the folks on our curriculum team and what does that look like, and involving really everybody to problem solve that. So yes, I think that's part of when we designed the network security officer, which is a new position that started a month or so ago, that person would be very involved in that as well. So it really will be a group effort.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Alrighty, I have a motion to approve the solutions architect position.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the solution architect position and corresponding job description.
I will second.
Motion by Charlotte, second by Monica. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Alrighty. Dr. Driscoll, 902, the special education content and compliance coach job.
All right, I'll turn this over to Mel Kelly.
Good evening, Mr. President and Board. What questions do you have? You want a description about it? This is the one for the specialized content coach. It's going around talking to a lot of the teachers. One of the things that they really talked about is having supports with completing IEPs and training in that area. And so this position is really going to have a laser focus on IEP compliance. We have to adhere to annual review dates and evaluation due dates. And so this position will help the Student Success Enterprise within special education to build capacity and trainings and support, systems of support to help us stay in compliance with our annual review dates and our evaluation due dates, but also build trainings and be there as technical assistants for our special education teachers in lifetime to be able to answer questions and get back to them as they're working on those IEPs. So that way they don't have to wait for an email the next day or something. While they're sitting there working on their prep period, they will have access to somebody to be able to respond and get them live support and action.
Jim?
Thank you, Mr. President. I think this is a great need that we have. I don't know about the other board members, but what parents tell me, not a lot of them, but the ones that do have a child that needs an IEP, and they don't feel it's being served. And whether that's universal or just within our district or just a couple schools, I don't know. But I think this will help. And so thank you for bringing it forward, Dr. Driscoll.
Thank you.
Monica?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, I think this is going to be a great support for our special education teachers. I know that it can be very overwhelming when you have a lot of IEPs. I was wondering if our district has a max limit on caseload or an average of, serving as a teacher of record.
Mm-hmm. For each recommended caseload that's in our regulation, it varies based on the area that you teach. So our specialized program classrooms have a different, like if it's SEALs, that's 8. And if it's a cross-categorical resource teacher right now, it's 22 recommended. Of course, sometimes it may go over or less depending on that, but our current recommendation is 22 students on a caseload.
Thank you. I know I used to be a special education teacher, and there were times where students would get transferred and the IEP was already out of compliance. And so what kind of supports are we giving? Obviously, you haven't even met the student yet, and you have to kind of get it done. So is there any additional supports that,
That's what I'm hoping this position will help with, that transfer process when the student moves in from a different district. And then usually within 30 days, we hold an IEP meeting to look at that. And if it's out of compliance, we have those timelines to get those in compliance and provide comparable services as quickly as possible to our students. So this position will really help our school psychologists and our special education teachers with those supports and ideas for IEP goals and parts of the IEP process. So that's the hope.
Thank you. Has the issue been more that they kind of have too many students, or is it that we have newer teachers who don't necessarily know how to support every student and create the IEP?
I think there's multi-factors that we look at with that. As part of this, we'd like to create better onboarding moving forward so that when new teachers do come into our district, there is training and support right off the bat. So we're partnering with other enterprises to look at what that would look like when new teachers come in. But I see myself in this compliance position to be pivotal in that, to make sure there's two things. We have the content of what needs to go into an IEP for each individual student, but then we have the compliance piece of how to navigate the software that we use to enter that. And so we just work with our individual teachers to see where they need the most support, and it can vary from teacher to teacher.
Which software are we using?
We are using Synergy SE.
Synergy. Okay, thank you.
Allison?
Thank you, Mr. President. I have 3 questions. One, have we seen the IEP go up in need, and about approximately by how much? The second is this a new position, completely new? We're not replacing or moving like the previous position. And number 3, when we're talking about onboarding, how often is our school having to send students to a third party outside of ours, to like a doctor or a psychologist or a counselor, in order to qualify them for those needs? Are we doing those all in-house? Because I do understand some districts are having to have needs of going outside of that, and then we lose so many children who unfortunately either don't have health insurance to do that or can't afford to do that. With this position, like you said, was helping with the onboarding, that bring in, have we had that need, and does that help this need if that's happening to any of our students too?
Okay. For the first question, we're monitored by the Arizona Department of Education about what we have, the critical components that we have, the required components that we have within an IEP and the evaluation process. And so that's pretty much dictated of the areas that we have within the documents that we have to fill out. But each of the parts might be different depending on the individual needs of the students. Some students have more intensive needs. You're going to write more in the sections of the IEP. Other children may have less needs, and so that would be shorter. Does that answer that part of the question?
It does.
Okay.
And from my understanding, they can only qualify for one of those in order to figure out how much our district is getting paid for that, correct?
When they do an evaluation, we evaluate in all areas of suspected disability, so they can have, they can have dual eligibilities in areas. Every area can be a dual eligibility. It varies from preschool age, and K through 8 has different. The state tells us what you can. One you cannot be dual is eligible in the area of autism and the area of emotional disability.
Excellent, thank you for clearing that up. Okay. And then, so onboarding, and this is a new position.
This is, currently there are 6 coaches, and this would, as part of the whole thing that I'm proposing this evening, we would have 4 coaches. So it's not a new position, it's just kind of repurposing a current position that we have to have more targeted laser support in a specific area to support our teachers.
Awesome, thank you so much. Yes, I want to second Jim and Monica. We do get some feedback saying that we could probably do a little bit better job, and I'm excited that this is an answer for me to let them know that we're trying that and we're going to do that. So thank you.
Charlotte.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am totally in favor of this position, especially in conjunction with the solutions architect who's collaborating across enterprises. I just learned today that AI can help write IEPs, so that might be a good crosswalk for the two of them. Anyways, so I did want to say, and this may be just a semantics thing, but if I were a teacher and I had a compliance coach, I would say that's an oxymoronic phrase, because compliance tends to be, oppressive and negative connotation, and coach isn't supposed to be. So I just have a little bit of an issue with the title. I know that they'll end up just being called the SPED coach, because that's what everybody will do, right?
Yes.
But what we are hoping is that they would actually, see them for the value that they will add. So I would just like to make the recommendation that we would call it the special ed content specialist, or just remove compliance. I worry about that seeming, like very top down, but that's just my own issue with it.
Thank you.
All right, with that, do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the special education content and compliance job description as recommended.
Second.
Motion by Monica, second by Jim. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, go on to the second. Okay, the second position is an instructional coach, special education, and the intent of this position is to really look at supporting all of our teachers, but have a really big emphasis on our specialized classrooms. Currently, our classrooms are SEALS, PALS, Spark, Essential Skills and Skills. And what I've heard it going around to a lot of our teachers is just needing additional support in those areas to support with the instructional modifications and needs. And so the coaches in this area would be assigned to those classrooms to help with IEPs. That would still be one thing they would be able to do, but also help with any of the adaptations that they would need. Assistive technology. We really want to increase the rigor in our specialized programs with the implementation of Blueprint. And so they would really help our teachers design those lessons to focus on the standards to hopefully increase achievement for all of our students in TD3.
Monica.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you. Is this a position that could help our teachers as well update the IEP goals? One thing that I personally had encountered was I would come across IEPs and their goals hadn't really changed much other than the quantitative part of it. So that I feel like would be very helpful for them as well.
Yes. In our specialized classrooms, it's really breaking down those skills and task analyzing it to the parts, and that's where I think sometimes we want to individualize. Those IEPs have to be individualized, and that's where the coach's expertise would be able to help that teacher drill down that skill and write an annual measurable goal so our students can make progress on their annual goals. And you're exactly right, our goals need to change from year to year. Our students need to make progress, and if they're not making progress, we need to address that through the IEP team.
All right, nothing else? Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the specialized programs coach job description.
Seconded.
Motion by Charlotte, seconded by Monica. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, going on to 10, board information. No? All right, moving on. 11, announcements. The Tempe Elementary School District Spelling Bee is this Thursday, so tomorrow, January 18th at 10 a.m. in this room. There will be an agenda committee meeting on Wednesday, January 31st at 11 a.m. The next regularly scheduled governing board meeting is Wednesday, February 7th, here at the Karen Arredondo Governing Board Room. The Tempe Elementary Love Your Heart 5K, sponsored by TEEA, will be held Saturday, February 17th at 8 a.m. at Kiwanis Park. And finally, tomorrow at the Tempe City Council meeting, they will be both passing the same FAFSA resolution that we passed at our prior meeting. And also we'll be declaring tomorrow as Geneva Epps Mosley Day. And that meeting should be at 6. All righty. Moving on, 12:01, adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn. Second.
Motion by Monica, seconded by Charlotte. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So moved. We are adjourned.